Hi guys, Arthur here from Homeowner DIY. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to install an expansion tank. An expansion tank is essentially a shock absorber for either a hot water heating system or, in my case, a potable water system. So the tank in the middle has a rubber diaphragm and has water on one side, air on the other. And as the water expands due to heat and pressure, the rubber diaphragm will take up that variation in pressure, so your system has a consistent pressure all the time. As stuff gets older, it tends to break more easily, so an expansion tank will help prolong the life of your water distribution system or heating system. So what we'll do now is material and tools. Alright, this is our materials left. So I have type L copper. There's a blue stamp. I've got a 1/2 inch T, a 3/4 FIP by 1/2 inch sweat adapter, 1/2 inch 90. I have a 1/2 inch sweat by sweat ball valve. I have 1 inch screws, 1 stove bolt. I've got 1/2 inch steel strap, white electrical tape, Teflon tape, flux, pipe compound, also known as pipe dope, and then lead-free solder. Guys, this is what I need for material for this job. So what we'll do now is the tools list. Alright, this is our tools list. So I have my hand tools. I think all I need is a measuring tape and channel locks. I have a water pressure gauge. I have a tire gauge for air. Tube cutters, emery cloth, fitting brush. I have my B tank, safety glasses, earplugs, a bike pump to pump up the air side of the expansion tank, and then I have my cordless kit. Guys, this is what I believe I need for tools for this job, so let's get started. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to solder this. We're going to prefab this on. Okay, give it a couple seconds to cool. And then with a wet rag or paper towel, I'm just going to use a paper towel. Wipe off all the flux. Alright guys, so we're going to check our domestic pressure. So I've got my gauge on my outside hose bib. It is 60 pounds right now. Alright, this is our expansion tank. So it says that it's pre-charged to 50 pounds. So underneath this cap, there is a pin valve, also known as a Schrader valve. This is the same as a car or a bike. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to first test the pressure. We'll see what's inside this first, and then we'll see what we need to pump the tank up to. So we're going to take our pressure gauge and check the pressure. 42, 44. So this is between 42 and 44. Guys, one thing to be mindful, don't check the pressure once, because even this is telling me slightly different readings. But the domestic pressure here is 60 pounds, so I need to pump this up to 60 pounds. Alright, so our tank is at about 65 pounds. You can be a little bit over, it's not going to hurt anything, but make sure that the tank is at bare minimum same pressure as your domestic, which in my case here is 60 PSI. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tape this up. We're going to put our pipe thread compound, and then we're going to put our copper onto it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I wrapped it 7 times. Alright, the idea of screwing this onto here right away is because when I mount the expansion tank, I want this label here to be visible pointing out. If you solder, if you solder this on first, the label, when you spin this on, may wind up in the back, and then you're not going to be able to see any of the information for the decal. Alright, so I put a block here. We have our copper. So I have a mark right here. So from here to this fitting here is 9 inches. So I went right in the middle. I split it at 4.5. So everything looks symmetrical. Now for the tank, I want it to be in this area here. So at the top here, I also have a mark. That is going to plumb this pipe from left to right. So from the pencil mark there to here, what I need to do is I need to measure how much of a piece I need for the copper here. So the easy way to do this is I'm going to measure off the bottom of the joist, and then I'm going to transfer the mark over to here. Alright, so from our mark to the bottom of the joist looks like about 12 3/4. So there's another stud here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the expansion tank, I'm going to put it back up onto my block here, and then I'm going to measure down 12 1/4. Hey, look at creativity. The tape will hold my tank up. So I've got my mark here. That is going to be the center. That's going to be the center right here of my 90. So it'll be like that. Now the other mark on the other side is going to be the center of the branch of the T right there. So guys, be aware of where you're measuring to for your fittings. But what I'm going to do now is I'll cut this here. I'll clean it. I'll get my 90 cleaned up flux, get that ready to go. Once that's all ready to go, I will clean this off here, and then I need to go shut off the water. Alright, so our mark is right there. That's going to be the center of the 90. So it looks like about a 1/2 inch lower is going to be the end of the pipe. So what I'll do now is I'll cut this, clean this, flux this, and get this ready to go. Alright, so this is our water main. This will shut water off to the entire house. So we're going to shut the valve off. And now we're going to go and open our bath sink to alleviate the pressure. Alright, so I'm going to turn the sink on, or the faucet rather. Okay, so I left the handle in the middle, so it's going to drain out the hot and the cold. There's one last thing that we need to do before I can cut the cold side of the water heater. Alright, so the main is off. I opened the faucet. So we have to keep in mind, we have a vertical portion and a vertical portion. This is all still full of water. So what I'm going to do is our TMP right here. I'm just going to open it, and that's going to drain the water. Okay, we'll leave that, and that'll introduce air into the system. So guys, I've already cleaned where I'm going to cut into this. Clean this first before you cut into it, because that's going to hold the whole thing together for you. Now with the TMP, which I just opened, any water is going to fall down from both sides, and when I cut this, there shouldn't be anything left. But what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to cut the T in. I'm going to measure, do everything. I'm going to solder everything, and once I'm ready to turn water on, we'll come back. Alright, so we're going to wrap this with electrical tape before we strap it. Alright guys, so I've soldered everything in. I've checked all my joints to make sure everything is okay. So our tank here is now hanging. So guys, in case you're wondering why there's electrical tape between the copper and the steel strap. Steel and copper are dissimilar metals. If you have steel and copper touching, and it comes to water, what you're actually going to do is develop a microcurrent, and that's going to eat away at your copper a lot faster. So this is by code, it's necessary. So I put a stove bolt in there, and then I strapped it to the strap up there. So that's going to take up the weight of the expansion tank. But now I've checked everything. I've given the solder joints a little bit of time to cool down, because I want to shut this before I go and turn the water on, which I'm going to go do now. Alright, we're at our mains, so we're going to crack our water open. So guys, just crack it open a tiny bit, and then give the system time to pressurize slowly. As I've said with all my other videos, when it comes to turning on water, you always want to do this slowly, because if you charge up your system too fast, you can develop pinhole leaks. Remember, everything here is getting older, so it's becoming more and more brittle. But I'm going to wait here until the PRV, the flow of water, is silent, and then I'll open this valve the rest of the way. Okay, the PRV just went silent. So now I'm going to open it the rest of the way. And guys, if it ever feels like it's taking too long, feel free to shut the valve and go check. Because if you're like me right now and you have no one actually watching, the work's been done, and you missed a solder joint or something's leaking, you know, you're flooding out the place that you just worked in and you don't even know about it. Alright, so the system's charged up, so we're going to open the valve. Okay, I don't hear any more water flowing. So that is good. We'll take the towel. Guys, in case you're wondering why I put a towel in, is because I wanted a space between the wall and the stud. And then we'll put our cap back on. Okay, so that is it for this job. I am going to take a marker and then mark the month and the year that I installed this. But otherwise, this is now done. Everything looks good. I'm going to wipe down the flux off the water heater, tidy up, and we'll do an overview of this job. Alright guys, so that concludes this project. So an expansion tank is a relatively inexpensive item to put in. It doesn't really require any maintenance. The one thing that you need to do is, at least once a year, I would suggest more like twice a year, is check the air pressure on the air side of the tank. Like a car tire or a bike tire, you will lose air pressure over time. If you depress the pin valve and you get water coming out of it, that means the tank is waterlogged. The rubber diaphragm inside has either disintegrated or it's torn and it's no good anymore. The time on this job. The time was about 2 hours. It was a little awkward soldering so high up. I think the biggest challenge was keeping the tank in place because I didn't have a second set of hands, but everything worked out in the end. The cost of this job. The cost was about $80. For the most part, the strap I already had, the few screws I already had, but the tank was the most expensive, and then the ball valve and a few copper fittings. But I mean, this is a relatively inexpensive project to do, and if you have a lot of space to work, I mean, it should be fairly easy for you to do it yourself. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. I hope something here is going to help you on your project when you need to go ahead and do that. Guys, till next time, please hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next project.